Welcome to the Captive Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Con McCallum. I am a teacher at Freedom Fellowships, serving Northeast Ohio, a church located in Kent. And the Captive Thoughts podcast is a podcast we'll be putting out twice a month. We'll be covering various theological topics, current events, and I also will be inviting guests on my show to interview them and hear their stories. Guests from within the church and from without.
Oh.
If that's how you can say it. But today, I have as my special guest for the first audio-only episode, Carlell Howard.
Hey, first time with you today. It's great to be here.
Welcome to the show. Carlell, it's an honor having you today as my first ever guest.
Wow.
And I couldn't think of a better guest to have. Carlell and I have been friends for 15 years.
Probably over now. That's a little bit over.
15 years. We've known each other, been doing ministry together. And Carlell has a podcast of his own.
Yes.
That he runs where he talks about good news.
Yes. It's called 5 Minutes of Good Stuff with Carlell.
That's right. So I wanted, as my first guest, someone who had some podcast experience.
Thank you. Some would say the longest running podcast in our fellowship. So much
tremendous. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who would have that one beat. So that's tremendous, though, Carlell. But anyway, yeah, we've done ministry together for many years here. Your story is just an incredible story. It's something I think that really speaks to God's grace and how you've had your ups and downs, but the Lord has always brought you back time and time again. And
for sure.
So I want to talk about that today, just because I find it so fascinating. I think a lot of people find it edifying. So when did you first start coming around?
I believe it was probably 2005 or 2006 was when I was invited to the Word High School Bible study at your dad's house.
Oh, yes.
I did not know
Our
it was a Bible
ministry.
study. I knew it to be let's go play Super Smash Brothers.
But you didn't know it was a Bible study.
It was a Bible study.
You got bamboozled.
I've been bamboozled.
The old trick move. I get it. And I'll just throw this out there. If you're trying to do evangelism and inviting people out, make sure you tell them what's up. Be forthcoming that it is a Bible study.
Yes.
But, still you can put those activities out there as a fun thing to attract people. For you, it's Smash Brothers, huh?
It was highly attractive. Yes.
Super Smash Brothers was the popular thing.
Yeah.
In the mid 2000s there.
Mm-hmm.
Super Smash Bros. Yeah, that's being in the youth group, that's how I would get all my friends coming out. Be like, we're playing Smash Brothers, we're playing Guitar Hero.
Yeah, Guitar
That
Hero.
was the thing. There's something to be said about having, the activities be a crucial part if you're trying to reach the youth, that like
For sure.
be creative with it and also be make sure there are activities that understand what the youth are doing, what the kids are doing, and what they're into. But anyway, so Brian invited you.
Yep. Good friend.
Smash Bros.
Bassett.
And then surprise teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite the journey because, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. 30 minutes away from home, and this random guy picked us up and took us in his Taurus station wagon. I'll never forget that. And we drove 30 minutes and ended up in Stove. I was like, okay, this is a whole nother city. I didn't expect that. And we went to the house. And
do you remember what the teaching was, your first teaching?
I do not.
No?
I'm pretty sure that I got in trouble because I was chit-chatting with probably Jordan. And because I didn't really know what was happening. I was probably really, really talking and did not remember. I remember who I met. I remember the names of the people who I first met.
Yeah.
But that was about it. And I remember, we had that little corner slot over there and the little back cut out of the second basement. I don't know what level 4 that was, and we played Super Smash Bros. I kind of remember vividly some of the things, but not the teaching.
Yeah. And from there, you started coming around more. And, it reminds me of something that Pastor Dottie Lewis, he had a teaching at an evangelism conference I went to recently, where he said that when you're doing evangelism, people often fall in love with the people first, the community first, and then they fall in love with Jesus. And that sounds, I know that you had already received Christ at this point at your previous church, which we'll talk about in a second, but but you weren't really plugged into a church community until here. And it was like, falling in love with the people. And, it's interesting. That was what you remember first, before like the actual teachings. And then, I'm sure you've remembered teachings since then, probably. Right?
At least one or two. Maybe.
That's good.
At least.
So let's talk. So you start coming around, but you've already had a church background.
Yes.
Before this. Tell me about that.
Born and raised in the Pentecostal charismatic denomination.
Oh, wow.
We had multiple church services on Sundays, Bible study on Tuesday, choir rehearsal on Wednesday. Sometimes we have a Friday night service. But yeah, it was constantly lots of singing, dancing, shouting, speaking in tongues. That was pretty much my upbringing. It was my grandfather's church, so that's kind of where family time was spent. Was at the church.
Yeah.
That was mostly it for my childhood. I didn't really understand what I was reading because it was all King James Version, which is by far an extremely hard text to read, at least for someone young. I don't really understand English that well, so I'm like reading Old English.
There are some church traditions that say that the King James Version is the only legitimate translation, English translation of the Bible.
Yep, that's what they believe. Well, at least that particular church did believe.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
We never read the NKJV, only the regular KJV.
Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, that was my upbringing there. So in terms of when I received Christ, I went up as they did like an altar call, and they made me repeat the words that this guy was saying, and then boom, you're saved. Fun fact, I actually did that 3 times. And the third time they were like, whoa, he already accepted Christ. Yeah. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing it because people would cheer, and like it was a really fun time to go up, and it seemed like they were really excited for this person, so I wanted to experience that.
Yeah.
So I don't think I really made the decision to and understood what it meant to come into a relationship with Christ until my mom took me to see a play called Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames.
Oh, wow.
It was a big production. In fact, fun fact, it's on YouTube. You can actually watch the full play.
Yeah.
It was a popular play. But it depicted all these people in different scenarios of life, some young, some old, some middle-aged, and something drastic would happen. Dramatic, or something like that. I don't know what I'm looking for. But they would pass on. They would die some way. And some of the people there, next thing they know, they're in hell, or they're at heaven's gates. And hell was depicted so, it was honestly kind of, what's the word when it kind of messes you up? It ruins you. It's like a travesty, almost like, I'm trying to think of the word. It really just impacted me to where I was really, really scared.
Oh, I see, yeah.
It made me so fearful. I said, I don't want to go to hell because that is terrifying.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I understood the difference in what God had done to save us from hell. Obviously, their depiction of hell didn't really speak on the separation from God and separation from love. It was more like people were screaming and flames everywhere. So that was, but it was impactful on me. Yeah. So I went up on the stage. One of the few times in my life where I've had tears just falling down my face, and that's when I think I truly did make my declaration to accept Christ into my life. So I was about maybe 13. My dad was still alive, so it would have been 12 or 13.
Yeah, we'll talk about your dad here in a second, because I think that's a crucial part of your story here. But, just thinking about, that kind of upbringing and, the fear that's at the heart of that. I mean, there is something that, that will drive people to the Lord's arms sometimes, just in out of fear. It's like a save me kind of thing. It's definitely want to avoid hell. But what I find as a motivator, it's a poor motivator to walk with Christ. Fear, and it's in Romans he says it's the do you not know that it's the kindness of God that leads to repentance, and having gratitude for the gospel, gratitude for Him. It's much better. Fear will motivate you for a time, but it won't keep you on the path going and So, and it sounds like, based on your upbringing, you struggle with a lot of fear.
Oh yeah, big time. God was terrifying. I thought that, at least from what I understood from the sermons, was that you could lose your salvation. He could take it away anytime he wanted to, unless you ask for forgiveness, and then he will grant you back your salvation, so to speak. So I had to remember every time I sinned that I need to ask for forgiveness, or I'm destined to hell. So I woke up lots of nights from thunderstorms. I can remember scary thunderstorms. Also, I'm a kid, so it's just, but they were loud and noisy, and that was my depiction of the rapture. Was this loud, crazy noises, thunderstorms, and I wake up frantically, like pleading, God, please forgive me for my sins, the ones that I forgot, ones that I'm going to do. Like I'm just like begging for forgiveness so that I don't go to hell. So that was a lot of nights doing that.
Yeah, the fear motivation. It's something that when children are raised up in, that it can actually lead, and it typically does lead to kids abandoning the faith, which is the majority of kids raised in the church abandon the faith. And why that is because the fear, it becomes overwhelming, and it becomes something where it's like, based on people I've talked to on this, that it's like you either are just completely immobilized by fear, or you end up just saying screw it, I'm done, I'm tired of just living in fear, and so I'm going to find reasons and excuses to abandon the faith completely, which is what you find, and it's like, might as well just do whatever I want. I'm just tired of being scared all the time, which is unfortunate, because there's a lot of joy to be had, and security of being in the Lord, and relationship with Him is not about fear. It's about love. And anyway, it sounds like as you're coming around those, you're starting to discover that. But tell me about your father.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a crucial part of your story, and what happened there.
Yeah, no, my father was a great guy. He's everything that I aspire to be. He's a really super friendly person. He knew everywhere he went, he knew somebody that he knew, like from high school or church, whatever. And it's fun to see that happening to me now, because like this one time, we were in Pittsburgh randomly, me and my wife, and someone I knew out of nowhere just popped up. And I'm like, hey, she's like, people everywhere. I was like, yeah, I guess so. I get that from my dad. But my dad was extremely personable, had an amazing personality, and nothing was wrong with him. A healthy guy. He loved the Lord. He was a pastor. I could not predict ever losing my dad at a young age.
Yeah.
But in his mid-40s, about 40, I think it was 44, 45, he went to the hospital because he wasn't feeling well. Something was wrong. And turned out that his ulcer burst, which I never heard of that. But I didn't know nothing about it, like no big deal. And the last words I said to him was I was praying for him. And his wife, who was on the phone with, she was communicating because he was getting ready for surgery. He just gave me a thumbs up, she told me. And that was the last time I talked to him. He went to get the surgery done. I don't know the medical reasoning why, and I can't really remember why they did it this way. But they kept him in a medically induced coma for too long, which I'm not sure if that caused him to become brain dead or not. But that was the results. And it was a very hard week of sleeping in the hospital, waiting to see results of different tests they were trying to do. But eventually we watched them. They had to pull the plug, and we watched him take his last breath. So it was very traumatic for me. I was deeply depressed. There were a couple of small moments where I contemplated suicide, just because I did not want to live in a world where I didn't have my dad.
Wow.
I loved him dearly, and it was very traumatic. As to why that had to happen to him at such a young age was really rough for me as a kid, that still hurts me till today. When it comes to death, I don't react normally to death as a normal person would. It finds me very emotionless at times. Because I think something kind of snapped. It broke when I had to go through all that trauma where I'm like dry heave sobbing because of all the things that were happening that week, to the point where when he finally passed away, there was like, I couldn't even cry anymore because I was just so done. So a lot of times people who know me now and I share my story about wanting to get to heaven, it's like, I'm like, sometimes I'll say, well, God and Jesus are cool, but like, I'm trying to find my dad, you know,
Right.
let me go hug my dad. That's what I really want to do. So, that was, my time with my dad. And I have a few videos of him that I will watch from time to time, and it's very emotional, but
so I mean, it sounds like, you know, that was something that because it's so traumatic that was something that you put walls up to kind of close yourself off emotionally from people, and then especially from other tragedies, just so you're not hurt again from that, which makes sense. And we were talking earlier too. You were telling me that losing your father, and combined with the church upbringing, that you were kind of headed on a trajectory for rebellion or leaving the faith, basically.
Yeah. I had a plan. 18 was I'm going to move out. That's what my brother did. He moved out on his graduation night, and I was like, that sounds like a solid plan. And I was planning on doing drugs and working for a warehouse.
What drugs were you planning to do?
I have no idea. I think I was going to start with marijuana and work my way around and see what I get into.
And you had not tried drugs?
I have never tried drugs in my entire life.
That's what's funny to me is normally people are fall into drugs through trying it with their friends. I don't know if I ever met someone who like planned to get into drugs.
Yeah, I had a plan, man. And the crazy thing was there was drugs all around me. People were they were smoking weed 7th, 8th grade, maybe even earlier. There was opportunity. I could find someone and get it easily, but I never did it. But I planned on it when I turned 18. Why 18? I don't know why. Yeah. Maybe because I was an adult and I could move out and be that warehouse full-time worker and smoke weed and be okay. But that was my plan. I was just done. I was done with my mom's rules. I was done with going to church. 18 was going to be my escape route.
So then finding, this new group, this new word to be a part of, seemed to kind of alter that trajectory for you.
Yeah. Part of my testimony is as traumatic as it was watching my dad die. The only reason why I accepted my friend Brian Bassett's invitation to come to the Word High School Bible Study was because I was in a very emotional state. And that's why I even gave him the light of day. Although me and Brian were like kind of buddy before that, I would never trust a random friend to go, 30 minutes away to a Bible study. And neither would my mom, which was amazing at how gracious she was to allow me to go to some random person's house 30 minutes away. And that's where the verse that I quoted earlier. See if I can do it again. So all good things come to those who believe. Is that along?
God works all things to good for those who believe and trust Him. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and who trust Him. Yes. Thank you. So really, the only reason why I'm here today is because of the Lord speaking to Brian and him taking that initiative and listening to the Lord and saying, I need to invite you to my high school Bible study. If my dad didn't, I'm not saying that God caused that to happen or whatever, but he took that situation of my deep depression and suicidal thoughts and it was like, hey, I want to save you. I want to save you from your depression. I want to help you out here. But you gotta, you obviously have to take initiative to say yes to this if you want to come walk with me. And if it wasn't for Brian, I wouldn't have. I've told him this before. Anything I have today was because you listening to the Lord and allowing Him to work through you. And me listening, obviously, was a part of that too. But you took the real initiative to invite your random friend out to a Bible study 30 minutes away.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of something to, as far as looking at the brighter picture there, as the Lord was very kind and generous to help me out there.
Yep. So you get plugged into community and start your walk with the Lord there in high school, learning things, and then pretty soon you're in college.
Yes.
Move into a ministry house.
Yes. I was invited to move into the ministry apartment, which is we have a few of those. Like, well, we have a lot of those now, but basically, a ministry apartment is just a apartment of guys who want to get together and serve the Lord together.
Yeah,
and
living together, doing life together.
Yeah.
Or girls, you know.
Girls are allowed to. I think
not in the guy's house.
Yes, of course.
You know, just for anyone who's not familiar. But
those are the special kind of. So there was also a lot of growing and maturing, because not only did I have to live with other people, I had to learn how to love and serve and grow with these people. So that was a really defining moment in my college career too. I mean, I still struggle, but it really was a big help.
But you were teaching. I remember teaching. Maybe I taught with you a couple of times. We were in a small group together.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That's right.
Trying to figure things out. It was a beautiful time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'll mention too, just about the ministry house. Like I think that in many ways, the ministry house is kind of the seat of our ministry in Freedom Fellowships, because you know, that's where Christian men and Christian women are really, they're doing life together. But, you know, they can really challenge each other. They can encourage one another. And living together makes all the difference, as opposed to many Christian kids who end up going to college and, you know, they're thrown immediately into the dorm life, which is it can be pretty debauched.
Yeah.
And, you know, many kids leave the faith at that age, you know, and it's no coincidence. They don't have a network, a community that they're part of, that they're living with. They don't have that accountability, and so they're kind of on their own.
Right.
And that, you know, it's like kind of throwing your kids to the wolves, you know, college doing that. But that's where the ministry house is really helpful with that, doing life together, the accountability, and also fighting for a mission together, right? And doing ministry, evangelism, and all that stuff. It's just tremendous. So, you know, ministry houses, that's where it's at. Absolutely.
For sure.
So you're growing, so you're walking, and, you know, teaching, and you have your ups and downs. Absolutely. But tell me, you know, we talked about how, you know, as the COVID pandemic hit, you hit, you know, perhaps, you know, one of the biggest, roadblocks in your life, in your spiritual walk as a Christian. Walk me through that.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of my flesh tendencies is retreat, denial, and cynicism. I think that's a big part of my flesh. And there were a few moments where, like, I had just reverted back to my flesh in my Christian walk, where it's like, okay, I'm ready to leave God. But I wasn't, like, serious about it. I just kind of thought about it. And, you know,
we should mention, by this point, you'd already graduated college.
Yes.
Got your degree, got a full-time job, got married. Even. And so, you know, you were full-fledged, you know, adult. You were adulting. You know,
I'm an adult.
And you are adult. You know, you are that. But then, and yet, you know, when you're at your most stable in terms of these things, you know, crisis hits.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not interrupting.
Just catching us up to speed. Yeah.
That catches everyone up. Yeah, it is true. Like, you think you're supposed to have your stuff together, but there's still a great battle going on, a spiritual battle. And I definitely was giving into the flesh and my cynicism. And it was very easy. I think the trigger point was that COVID locked us in our homes.
Yeah, so isolation.
Yeah, I was isolated, just me and my wife and work. That's all I was doing. And there was also just this weird tension between, you know, why are people not wearing masks? And should I, because I'm at risk? And all these, we didn't understand what was happening. So it was very easy to be very defensive about these things. So that also
there's kind of that polarization that we're seeing in the rest of the culture that's getting into churches too. Like, you know, the people in the church aren't wearing masks, so now I'm, you know, going to cause a big problem. Over that, which, you know, I'll mention is, you know, are things that churches are facing across the world. Really just this increasing polarization, you know, specifically around political things. And not that masks are political, but it's just an example that there's, you know, with the COVID pandemic hitting, people have left the church in droves. I've went to an evangelism conference a couple months ago, and that's, you know, they were presenting all the stats around that. People left, and a lot of it was around issues of mask mandates, of vaccination, that kind of stuff. And, you know, I just was hearing that, you know, just kind of amazed that, something as simple as like a disagreement over a cloth on your face or whatever, could cause people to like forsake and leave their community, their love communities, but that's something churches are facing across the nation today.
That's crazy.
But anyway.
Yeah, that's where I was. That's crazy that I thought it was just kind of me, but it sounds like it's
yeah.
Yeah, so that stopped us from going to things because like people weren't wearing their mask, and I'm like, I don't want to go there. I'm at risk. So we, retreated more and more, and everything was on Zoom, and you can't really tell how I'm feeling on Zoom. So I kind of made it by for a while actually, and it got colder and colder, and my cynicism was at an all-time high, I think.
So what was that cynicism like? I mean, just like doubts about people, or not doubts, but maybe distrust of people and judging.
Like these people don't care, they don't care about me. They don't care about, they could be killing people. I thought of like, they're asking me these questions where they were just trying to check in with me. I'm like, they don't really care. They're just asking because they want to look good on the Zoom or whatever. Everyone's out to get me. I'm bitter now. Wow. I'm going to stick in my bitterness. My best friend Rich, he said something to me that crossed me the wrong way. Now I'm more bitter, and I'm just going to let that seep, and I don't have to tell him. So I'm just going to keep getting bitter and bitter. And so, everything rubbed me the wrong way. Extremely negative, extremely cynical. And so it got to the point where I think I was just like, well, that's it. I'm done. And I mean it this time. There's nothing that anyone could do to convince me otherwise. I think I'm ready to call it quits.
Wow.
And that was not only leaving this church, it was like, I'm done with the God thing. Maybe I'll like still follow some of the pastors I like to listen to. Shout out to Greg Laurie.
He's a good man.
But it's like, that's as far as I'll go. Maybe I'll listen to Greg Laurie, but I think I'm done with this God thing. Yeah. This is just too much. I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather just, stay at home and do nothing, pretty much. That's the alternative. I'll stay at home, do nothing, and play video games. So it wasn't until, I don't know if this is jumping ahead or not, but I was stuck in the rut. My best friend is...
Well, before I give that, I do want to, mention too that it's interesting about your story. What sticks out to me there is the isolation that was kind of the, started all this. That we're designed for community, we're designed for love relationships, and when we are disconnected or disconnect ourselves from community, these thoughts, these doubts, these thoughts of like I can't trust these people and all that, like that starts creeping in, and it's illogical most of the time, and it's like nothing really terrible happened, but it's just like it's almost as we cut ourselves off, like that's where we're at our most vulnerable, and that's where Satan can come in and start really messing with people, and that's what the Bible tells us, that Satan's looking, prowling around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. He's looking for those people who are at their most vulnerable, who are cut off, who don't have the strength of the body of Christ, the community that they're leaning on. And so, anyone that willingly chooses to remove themselves from their community, their church community, you're putting yourself and your family at risk.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting from your story here.
No, that's very true. Like, just looking back at it, like some of the thoughts I had were so like critical and harsh that like, I started believing them. And then speaking of the families, it's like my wife, who, all she was really communicating with was me and her girls on Zoom, and that was about it. So most of the time she heard me just spewing cynical thoughts and negative thoughts, and then that started to be an influence on her. Bless her heart.
Yeah.
She began then to start saying the things that I was saying, and starting to become more cynical too. So I was bringing her under with me, and I was like, and then when I finally told her, I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. You could still go, and I'm gonna do my own thing though. But I don't want to stop you, obviously, because you're having a good time. But as for me, I'm out. So, which confused her greatly, and that caused a rift in our marriage a little bit, because I'm like, we're not heading on the same path. Yeah, and I'm taken away from the thing that brought us together.
Right. Well, marriage, one flesh. The Bible describes that. So what happens to one happens to both. So there's It's hard to separate the two. But anyway, so then what happened?
Yes. Great question. So one thing that I think that I failed to mention, and maybe I did, but like, even though I'm doing all these things and this is kind of like how on guard you have to be. Like, before COVID, I was serving at Johnny and Friends was a life-changing event. I wrote a blog about how life-changing it was. The Lord was like really transforming me.
This was a Johnny and Friends retreat where you served.
Yeah, the respite thing that we were talking about earlier. That it was super life-changing. Anyone who goes can attest to that. Not contest, don't contest it. And I'm teaching. I'm like, teaching home church. Our meeting, our small meeting, like once a month at least. And I'm in a discipleship. Someone's trying to mentor me and help me to be more spiritual, I guess you could say. And all these things are happening, and COVID hits. And like even before COVID, I had my doubts and my struggles, and there were a couple of times where like, I think I'm done. But then COVID hits, and then it got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I think some of the reasons why that happened was because, one, I wasn't serving, I wasn't really getting into the Word more, so I wasn't combating the thoughts that the evil one was giving me, or however he was trying to influence me. So it's like sometimes when I see people struggle, it's like, whoa, like, dude, I can't believe you're struggling. You're super spiritual. But it's like, it can happen in such a quick instant. Like, you don't even realize that, Satan's trying to influence you this way, and you're not like, how are you trying to combat him from that? And that's basically was the turning point, was when I finally decided, okay, let's combat this. And that was
put up a fight.
Yeah. Which that was actually through our cell group, our men's only group, started a book called Heaven by Randy Alcorn.
Oh, yeah, it's a great book.
So at that point, actually, I think I had been through some hard talks with people, but not everyone knew my thoughts on things. And we were reading the book, and it's describing all these things about heaven and how amazing it is. And it's bringing in this gratitude of, don't you see what is heading, what direction you're heading in? God has made this wonderful dwelling place for you once you pass on.
Yeah.
And like, this is your goal. This is where you're heading. And he saved you from the complete opposite, separation from him, which is hell.
Yeah.
And don't you see like these amazing things that are going to be there? It's not just we're playing harps in heaven and sitting on clouds and doing nothing, but like, it just talks about, it's so descriptive of what's going to be there. And I thought about my dad and what he could be doing there, because there's a verse, and I can't quote this one with the other one, but it's like, the things that are on earth, they're going to be in heaven too. And there may be a verse or something like that, I'm not sure. But he talks about that in a book. It's like, okay, so heaven is like not a totally different place. It's just a more, what's the word? It's how earth should be before the fall, pretty much. And so my dad could be watching a movie. Wow. Or my dad could be, going to a comedy show or whatever. He could be playing basketball. My dad introduced me to all those things, by the way. So, he could be doing all those things in heaven. He's not just sitting there, singing constantly to God. Like I just imagined heaven was like. We're just singing to God the whole day, and that's it. And we're playing our harps or whatever. So that really drastically changed my thought towards heaven. And there was this quote in the book, which I should have probably prepared and had it ready. But it was saying that, like, essentially the church that you're going to, man, I forgot the quote, but it was along the lines of, like, you are not going to find the perfect church. No matter where you go, each church is going to have its own flaws.
Yeah.
And issues. No one's going to be perfect. If you leave, and I'm so totally paraphrasing now, but if you leave to go to a different church, they're not going to be perfect. They may not be better. You know, like they're going to have their own set of issues. And so what it came down to was I was putting a lot of blame on this church. Like, this church is causing me these issues as well. Everyone's against me. And I wasn't facing God.
Yeah.
I was turning it towards everyone but God.
Yeah.
You are an issue, and life would be better without you, and I'm bitter at you. But none of it was towards God. It was all just towards the people around me, which in reality, these people are just trying to care for me. But I was taking that and twisting it, and Satan was just feeding into that.
Yeah.
So reading that, it broke me down, and I admitted to my men's group, like, you know, I just want to let you guys know, like, I had very strong plans of calling it quits with God and calling it quits with this church. And I opened up with them about it, and I said, this book and what this guy just talked about, man, I wish I had that quote on hand. But that was like the game-changing moment there. It was like, it's my issue with God. I haven't been focusing on God at all. It's been just focusing on people and how they're causing me strife and issues. So it was very quickly a life-changing event reading that book, because not only I understand heaven more and how it's not just a simple place. It's very vast, and there's so many things there. But it's like the Lord has prepared this for each of us, and how loving and gracious is He to care that much about us, to do something so amazing. And also I just had to talk with God about, hey, man, you know, this has been happening, and I've been pointing towards people, but you know, I really needed to bring this to you. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's repentance is what you're describing. Repent to the Lord and expose these things to you. And, you know, what I've always found just incredible about your story too is what happened after that, as you turned back to the Lord, and then how He started working through you, honoring, you know, that change of heart, orienting yourself back towards Him, towards the people that care about you. He honored that, and in particular through your work with your mother. Talk with me about that. What happened there with your mom?
Yes. So I think a great part of this church too is that we are trying to raise up people, obviously, to walk in the Lord, but also some of that I think comes into, like, you know, healing family relationships, and I think that's a big push we try to push with people as well. And so leaving my mom when I was 20, I moved out and lived with my brother, or maybe I was 19, and we left on a pretty bad note. I'll spare you the story, but basically there was definitely I was okay not talking to her, and I was okay being done with our relationship, but I would still go to church on Sunday because this is after I moved out, just because I wanted to help out my grandfather, and I promised him that I would help him with music. I played the organ there, and so I would see her then, and maybe we'd chat, but nothing too serious. It was extreme bitterness on my end, and it was nothing in regards to her, but just how things happen. So we left on a bad note, and so I moved out. I came up here and moved into the ministry house, and so we're talking about relationships, and there's always occasionally a teaching on being thankful and healing past family trauma and things like that. And I think that was really the big push on me going back to love my mom, which is something I didn't want to do. I was very against it, and it was pretty intense. So we kind of made baby steps and started to become friends over the years, which has been cool. But then, let's see here, December 2020, June 2020, my grandpa has passed away. Oh. So that was her last living relative. And it was a pretty heartbreaking scenario with her family. A lot of division. Yeah. And it came to the point where she was about to not have a place to live. Yeah. And it was so crazy how everything worked. She had a place. she wanted to live in this one place, and the family just wasn't agreeing on that, and it got real bad. Yeah. So without hesitation, really, I was like, you can come live with me.
Yeah.
And Kayla, my wife, was on board. We had actually offered it to her a year before that, but we were kind of relieved because we just got married. So we were kind of, oh, thank God. But we have this 2-bedroom apartment. I was like, we got a room. Like, it was our office. We can move this and you can come live with us. And we actually meant it from a loving way. And I don't think that if things were going the way they were going during COVID, I would not have offered that to my mom at all, because I was in such a dark place. Like, I don't want to help you. You have money, go get an apartment. But she was struggling much more than just needing a place. There was some emotional healing that needed to be done, as well as just getting a new start. So the compassion is the big part that I had, which my cynicism was so strong that compassion wasn't a word that I understood, because everyone was against me or don't deserve what they have, or they shouldn't be experiencing these nice things. Everything was bad for me. So the fact that we were able to have compassion for her, I think, was a big, big step. I never wanted to live with my mom again, which most people are like, I got to live with my parents again. I've done it since I was 18, which was true for me. So it's been like 12 years, or 11 years, 10 years. And it was so cool. It was a defining part of our relationship that we were able to help my mom in a rough time where a lot of people weren't helping her. Close people weren't helping her. So it was very upsetting to see that. But I'm glad that we were able to do that. And that is truly the Lord, looking back over my whole walk, how it started with Brian and how I struggled along the way. I never saw a time where I would be willing to help my mom in the way that I've helped her. But that is just the Lord working on my heart and transforming me up to the last minute, because, several months earlier, I was ready to call it quits with God, but he was able to quickly transform my heart back on, like, dude, you gotta love people. And then he presents me this opportunity where I could love my mom. And she lived with us for, 6 months or so. And it was a beautiful time. And the fact that she was encouraged enough to want to revisit our church was mind-blowing to us. And I think that was truly like God working on her heart. So one of the things I had to learn over the years was I was kind of like shaming other denominations.
Yeah.
I got kind of on my high horse, like, our church does it the best. And this denomination is wrong for this reason. This denomination is wrong for this reason. And eventually I came to the point, either through a teaching or through someone telling me, like, these people are still bringing people to Christ.
That's where you received Christ.
And that's where I received
Christ. At your
Christ.
Original church. Exactly, yeah.
Which is funny. That's the name of the church, the Original Church of God. So you got that, the original church.
That works out.
So that was, I was on my high horse, like, all religions are wrong, blah, blah, denominations got it wrong, we got it right. Yeah. Non-denominational is the way to go. And so my thing was like, this is not the denomination that she wants to be a part of, because it's Pentecostal for her. And so when she moved in, we didn't bother inviting her to our church, because
so if someone has a church they're happy with.
Yeah, which is exactly. I had to learn that she appreciates that, and she still goes there, which it's great, and she loves singing. So I'm glad that she can get that out, because we don't do that here, which is fine. Yeah. But that's what she grew up on, and that's one of the ways she worships the Lord, which is fine.
Absolutely.
So the fact that she asked to come to one of our meetings was mind blowing for us, because we weren't going to. Yeah. That wasn't in our plan. And she asked, "Hey, you still have your meetings?" And I was like, "Yeah, why do you ask?" What do you want? And she's like, "Well, I really want to go." And so since January, so we're in November. Since January this year, she has made more meetings than I have.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy to think about. She's made more meetings than I have. And she I've asked her a couple of times, what do you think about things? And she's like, I like the fact that you guys jump right into the Word.
Mm-hmm.
I like people are well educated. We can ask questions, and it's like I have a good group of Christian friends. Yeah. That was the big thing for her.
Yeah, community.
People who actually care for her and want to be a part of her life. And I've never seen her. I've never seen her so talkative around people in like a meaningful way. Like, she's obviously life of the party. That's where I get it from. Her and my dad were two super relatable people, and they can light up any room that they go into. But it's just joshing around. They're just joking. But when she comes here, she's like, "Oh, I need to go talk to this person. I really appreciate talking to this person. This person, she's so nice to me," and hearing all those things like makes our heart glad. So it's pretty crazy how transformative it is in her life too, that she knows that something's different.
It's just awesome to me, that right after this crisis of faith and that you experienced here, that you repented, you turned back to the Lord. Rekindled your relationships with your friends, and then immediately, bam, there's the Lord, like, just waiting to make you fruitful and to use you. And He used you to help, provide and love your mother. And, through you, she's been able to be introduced to a new community that she loves. And, that's fruit. And here you are, still involved in our, the respite ministry and all these things. Like, the Lord's using it. He's got His hand on you. And so, that, and it's just the message of grace. Your story is the message of grace. The Lord's grace just showers upon us like, well beyond anything we deserve. It's He wants to work with us, and He's not looking for our behavior. He's not looking, for us to, have our acts cleaned up. Well, all He wants is our heart. And if we have a heart that says, "Yeah, I want to do your thing, Lord," the Lord's like, "Yeah, let's go right now. Let's run." And He shows you amazing things. But that's just an incredible testimony there, Carlell. And here you are today. You are our MC.
I'm still here.
You're our MC for our 4:00 service.
Talk about
arguably your most important role.
Talk about surprising.
Yeah,
you had mentioned that to me before, and I was like, that's just an offhand thing. Like, that's not going to happen. and then it actually did happen. Yeah, it was very cool.
Tremendous MC, Carlell. I knew we had to utilize that gifting. You're great in front of people, and you got that beautiful voice.
Thank you.
You got a podcaster's voice. And
I appreciate that.
It's not something I have, but
yeah. I think that I think the one thing the Lord was showing me too is this, like, with pride and cynicism, it's like, you offering me that earlier, it would be destroyed. I would destroy it somehow, like, not in a good way. Like, like I would really not take it graciously and be thankful that I have the opportunity to serve our church in that way. But it is actually, it's super meaningful to me that I get to serve in that way, in a way that, like, I'm not super talented at many things, but one thing I can do is talk. Like, I love talking.
Absolutely.
And to be able to teach and to be able to MC, it means the world to me that I can do something like that. So it is crazy. Yeah, if you offered me that earlier, it would not have been a good thing. But the timing, Lord, like you're saying, the Lord
had to do His work in you.
Yeah,
and that's tremendous. Very good, Carlell. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on here for our first audio episode. Again, we'll be putting out Captain Thoughts every other week, and bringing in different guests, some from our church, some from outside the church, but and then talking about the relevant topics of the day also. So a variety show of sorts. But
very, very excited. I'm sure a lot of people are excited about you getting this jump started back up. So
absolutely
appreciate you.
Make sure you subscribe. You can, if you're listening on Spotify, make sure you follow Captain Thoughts. iTunes, same thing.
Turn the bell notification on.
Yep. The bell notification, is that a thing?
That's what they say. But yeah, Spotify, you can turn on the bell and it'll alert you.
Okay, turn on the bell then, and you'll get notification as soon as a new episode drops. So anyway, I couldn't have asked for a better first guest here, Carlell. So thanks for joining me, brother.
Yes, sir.
And we'll see you all in 2 weeks. And enjoy your Thanksgiving break.
Yes.
Thanksgiving's in a couple days.
Oh, boy.
And yeah, so the Thanksgiving special you could also.
Wow.
I'm sure we'll do a Christmas special also.
That'd be tight.
But that one will actually be a holiday special. But that's all right. All right. See you all later, folks.